This is Deep Dive into Joy, and I'm your host, Gina Richner. Hey, Joy listeners, it's your host, Gina Richner. Welcome back to Deep Dive into Joy, the podcast where we talk about our own personal testimonies, how God shows up for us in our everyday lives, health and wellness, and journeying through the Bible. I'm so glad to have you all here with me today. Before we get started, I want to pause and share the sponsor of today's episode, and that is UTZY. Do you want to feel better? Well, I'm going to introduce you to UTZY Naturals because they go the extra mile, and their supplements are crafted to help you go above and beyond too. They have 4 decades of experience in dietary supplement manufacturing, and they also have wealth of knowledge and expertise to funnel towards crafting each product into the best of its kind. So I know I like taking my health seriously, and I think that you should too. So they drive to make products that are both safe and effective during the entire process, and they believe in wellness rooted in science and guided by nature. So all their formulas are clean, there's no shortcuts, you can definitely feel confident in what's going into your body. My favorite thing about it is that not just the clean ingredients, but they also come in glass bottles, so you're not dealing with microplastics. And another awesome thing is they just came out with a microplastic detox, which I have tried and I loved. So whether you need better sleep, gut health, immune strength, or daily vitality, UTZY offers trusted solutions that work in harmony with your body. There's no fillers, no gimmicks, just results naturally. I'm actually really excited because I'm going to have the CEO of UTZY on soon, so I'm excited for you guys to hear that episode. Another one of my favorite products is their magnositol. This is an awesome magnesium blend that is going to help support just your overall, getting better sleep, promote calm, balanced mood, and you're going to get that better, deeper sleep without the grogginess. A favorite way to use that is if you put a little bit of seltzer water in a glass and you add about a shot glass worth of tart cherry juice, and then you're going to add a scoop of the magnositol. It just makes this awesome sleepy time drink at night. You can use my link. It's bit.ly/3 capital E capital T lowercase q-u capital R lowercase r, and you're going to use code capital GINA 20 to get a discount. That's UTZY Naturals because your wellness is their mission. Okay, so I'm going to sit down with Eric Cummings today, and he is a husband, father, and lawyer at his own firm called the Cummings Law Firm. And Eric's just going to sit down and share his testimony with us today, so I want you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. So let's all welcome Eric Cummings to the podcast. So hi, Eric. I want to thank you so much for coming on with me today. I'm excited to hear your testimony, how God showed up for you. But I like to ask every guest before we start a fun little question. What is your favorite drink?
Oh, that's a good one. Favorite drink, I would probably say it's going to be a double shot of espresso from Sheetz. And I have my reasons are, it's crazy, right? Because if anybody's ever had espresso, especially just black espresso, it tastes like garbage. It tastes...
Yeah, I was going to say, do you mix anything with
tastes
it?
horrible. It's for the functionality.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person, so...
Me either.
Right? It's something that's plagued me, and I find the double shots of espresso do the trick. So they kick me in the tail, and they get me over that starting line pretty quick, and I chase it with water. And I'm
why Sheets? Just because it's convenient?
Because it's right by
okay.
It's right there. It's right there. And it's cheap.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, that too.
buying all those lattes and stuff, I can't do that. I can't justify it. But $1, what is it? $1.29 or something
I don't even know anymore.
For a double shot of espresso. It does the work. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. Just chase it with something, or you're gonna taste your mouth's gonna taste like garbage for the next couple hours. Yeah. So no, I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so this episode really is going to be all about you. You're going to take the wheel from here.
Okay.
As want you to share your story, your testimony. I know you guys have adopted, so maybe you can share a little bit about that, but it's all you. You can let me know when you're done and we can move into the next session.
I don't. How much time do we have? Because this might. I'm a lawyer. This could. This could take a while. No. I'm joking.
I technically don't know if I've ever gone over maybe like I know I've definitely gone over an hour.
Okay.
But that's up to you. You can talk as long as
Oh, honey,
I don't know where this program starts. I know it goes over an hour because I've done over that, but
well,
I don't know if it stops at a certain point. If it does, I'll let you know. But
this is. I think, and we'll play it by ear, obviously. So, yeah, for everybody who's listening, just praying that whoever gets to hear this, that any of the stuff that I'm able to speak about, just that Jesus does something crazy with it, right where you are, and the moment that you hear it, the moment that your heart hears it. I just pray that he does something amazing with it beyond understanding, comprehension, or anticipation. Something that that's going to change your life, and that might be accepting him for the first time. So I'll start with that a little bit. I am, like I said, I'm a lawyer. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. It's hard to believe. I feel so old. It's nuts.
Wow, I didn't think you were doing it that long.
Yeah, it's stupid. It is stupid how fast time goes.
I know.
And it's all part of my story, and how I got there and stuff. So I guess what I do is I'll for all the listeners too, anybody who's listening that is a type A that plans and does their notes and all their stuff, I would drive you crazy, because just like I drive my wife crazy, who's type A, that I love very much. I am a tap dancer, man. I didn't read any notes. I'm winging it. Like, we're going, this is, which my wife would probably just put her hand to her forehead, that slap to the forehead.
I can see her doing that for
she
sure.
She certainly would. But I think what it offers for me anyway is a very deep level of transparency and off the cuff, without filter, that I think is really the way that God has chosen to use me when I'm at my best for Him. So that's what I had an urge to kind of read up on some stuff and see what was, but we're gonna just run through this. So I guess where I'd start is I would, because I don't know where someone's going to relate, but I'll start at the beginning. I had a great childhood. My mom and dad were phenomenal parents. And I was not a great kid. You're going to hear me when I describe this stuff, because I talk to a lot of people, obviously, and I don't hesitate to use this type of language. You're going to hear me use terms like natural tendencies and natural abilities and gifts and things like that. And my natural tendencies, since I was born, they're in my blood, right? Is I'm a contrarian, I'm competitive, I can be reactive, I'm spontaneous, intuitive, but I think that the contrarian and argumentative side of me is what makes me a good lawyer, but it made me a very bad student, honestly, in school, in high school, and elementary. So if you're a teacher, or I'm on the school board here for Clearfield, and I have a vested interest with 6 kiddos, I figured I might as well get involved that way as well. So I do understand the school system, but I could tell you, if you have a kiddo in a class that is a problem for you and is stressing you out every day when you're teaching, and is just wearing on your last nerve and won't shut up in the middle of class and isn't paying attention. I was drawing in class, I was sleeping in class, but most of all, I was talking. And I could tell you that back in the day, back old school, man, like, I got sat out in the hallway in desks more often than I was in the classroom for the lessons, because the teachers just wanted me out. I would encourage you, don't give up on those kids, man, because those natural tendencies, if they are driven in the correct direction, especially in accordance with God's will for that child's life, they are going to change the world. They're going to be a powerhouse. And if they naturally have that tendency and they're in a controlled environment that doesn't foster that or encourage that, like a school classroom just doesn't. It just doesn't, which isn't a, there's a purpose for a school classroom and there's an agenda, obviously. And it's not free for all talking, right? So it doesn't encourage that or foster that. But that child will hear so much negative from the other staff and from the other kids through that high school career that they will distinctly remember the names and the interactions with you who show them grace and lead them through it, and try to give them opportunities to be independent and to make arguments and to be a contrarian. So that's my spiel on that, because I specifically remember those teachers, and I specifically remember the interactions with my parents. God bless them. They had a hard time handling me up through my, probably from 13 until I graduated. Just absolutely contrarian. You say the sky's blue and I'm going it's green, and I only say it because you said it was blue. Literally, like, there's no logical reason other than the fact that it's in my DNA to act like that. But my parents were phenomenal. They were amazing. Going into, I bring that up because going into the summer between my junior and senior year in high school, so this would have been 1998. Ugh. Right?
I couldn't
back in the
remember
olden days,
how
like
much
my
older you
kids
were
say.
than
Yeah, 1990. Back in the olden days, Dad. I'm like, shut up. You're fine.
back in the 1900s, I
Yeah,
think. Is
yeah,
what
that's
they
what
say.
they're like. Did you have running water? Did you have to go to the bathroom out in the portal? No. Oh, you had running water. But in during that summer, I attended. I grew up in church. It was St. Paul United Methodist Church in Grampian on 6th Street. A couple of my friends, there's a couple little churches around there. A couple of my friends had attended St. Bonaventure Catholic Church right by the Grampian Park. And they had actually, the one girl I graduated with, Amanda, her brother Matthew, he was probably in his late teens, early 20s. He had volunteered to run a youth group. And at that time, I had no idea what a youth group was. It wasn't, the terminology now is much more in the culture than it used to be, right? The Christian music now is much more in the culture and is much better, frankly, quality wise. We had very little Christian music, and what it was Uncle Bob on a keyboard
So
and
true.
Aunt Mary singing it with her frizzed hair in the corner. Is horrible. It was atrocious. But so I go to this youth group, and it was getting towards the middle of the summer, I remember, and we were singing and just doing what youth groups do. And it was the first time I had ever encountered it before. And I specifically remember being asked at the one meeting whether I would accept Jesus. And not only was I 17, but I tell you, I was absent-minded. I don't think my brain fully developed until I was in my 20s. I was out to lunch, which I think was why I didn't listen in school either, is because I was just doing my own thing. And I didn't understand the significance of it, but because I was so naive to the fact, I know now that God saw the innocence of my heart because of my naivety, and he accepted my sacrificial offering to him at 17 years old in that St. Bonaventure Catholic Church that day. And I remember leaving, and I had this feeling of, it's so hard to explain and put into words. I want to say almost floating. It's so weird to say it like that, but just being above. It was the Holy Spirit. It was joy. I had never felt that before, and it was a supernatural result of an eternal decision that at 17 years old, I couldn't decide what I was going to have for lunch, but I decided to accept Jesus Christ as my Savior. And whether I understood the significance of that or not, God did, and the Holy Spirit did, and they did what they always do, and they took over, and began at that point to drive me the direction that I was intended to go, without me having a idea in the world where I was going and what they were doing and what was about to happen. So you go from that, and I remember finishing out that summer, and I had that feeling the whole summer. It was the best summer I ever had. So I get through that summer, and I go back as my senior year, and I specifically remember over the first few weeks I lost that feeling, and I remember knowing that I lost that feeling, and whatever, it was what it was, and I figured it was what it was. Got done graduation, ended up going to Penn State, and I can tell you, I don't know who all listens to this or who's going to listen to this, but so Clearfield, right? Clearfield, Kerwinsville, Grampy, and the areas we're talking about, these are very small areas geographically, very small population, all this stuff. I absolutely despise this area. I grew up, I did not have a great experience in school for a number of different reasons, obviously. I felt like I was bigger than this place. I felt like I was better than this place. I wanted to go to the city. I wanted to go to a beach. I wanted to go somewhere that I felt like I could be bigger. And not for God in that moment, frankly. It was because of my ego. And so if you have kids that are in a position where they are saying, I'm moving out of here, you're never going to get me back here, I'm never going to be here again, this place stinks, no matter where you are, right, geographically, if you're in a smaller area and your kids are talking like that, if God wants them to be back here, he will get them back here. And because he got me back here. And as we talk, you'll hear how he got me back here, and it was nuts. But my point is I did not have an enjoyable experience in the school setting. I thought I was dumb. I thought I was just all these things, this baggage, these lies that the enemy strapped on me behind closed doors that I didn't realize I was carrying, that created disdain and resentment for the area and the people here. So when I went to Penn State, I saw that as an opportunity to be unknown. I wanted to be unknown. I wanted to be I wanted to start fresh, right? And so I go there, and I literally, with, again, remember, competitive, indignant, contrarian, argumentative, ego growing from that age, that I still struggle with. And so I started reading the dictionary, and I was doing it, and I knew what I was doing. I was doing it not to be smarter. I was doing it so I could pick fights with people and make them look dumb. I'm just being honest. Like, that was my mindset going, I disliked this area so much and these experiences so much that that's never going to happen to me again. And I am going to absolutely crush everybody around me and that thinks they have a shot of beating me when it comes to school, when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to just anything like that. And from there, I got into student government. I was one of the Lion liaisons for one of the campuses. I was CCSG Northwest Caucus Director, which puts me in charge of a bunch of the branch campuses in the Northwest part of Pennsylvania. I used to boast that, and again, I'm just giving this for relevancy on the build up, because when you hear the fall, keep all of this content in mind, because it was in my mind when it punched me in the face. But I would boast that, in school they tell you, you have to get all this content of your resume on one page. And I would boast going, good luck, right? You're not fitting this on one page, Cupcake. You're not going to be able to, and I made sure you couldn't, unless you're writing an 8-point font and you're not going to be able to read it. And so I'm doing all these things and accomplishing all these things, and it's just win after win after win after win. And God was so far from me, and all the ways that in college we fear that our kids will get tied up in substance and altercations and relationships that are bad and just horrible time management and horrible all those things I was participating in and subject to.
Did you feel like you were being, like, truly being fulfilled by those things when
Um,
you were getting those wins?
I'll be honest, I did.
Yeah.
And if it would have just been one win,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably have said no in the short term, like anything short term, you feel satisfied.
Yeah.
But I would say, but I'm telling you, like it was win after win after win. I was the guy, right? I was the guy, and I'm also love language. Notice I am a words of affirmation love language. So now I'm having people around me constantly going, "You're the guy," right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, to uphold and maintain the status for words of affirmation of you're the guy, plus the wins to satisfy the competitive nature that's naturally in me, you're the guy. I had to keep winning and seeking out things to win at and to just keep adding to that resume and adding. And it was almost an addiction. So I was, which plays into who I am now. Like I said, these things are not bad things if your heart is in the right place.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am the hardest worker that you're ever going to meet. No one is going to work me. I'll work you under the table. Like, I'll put people to shame because of what I'm doing now. So seeking out challenges to win, I'm still doing that. But I'm doing it for Jesus. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for the people, my team and their families that work with me. I'm doing it for being able to go behind closed doors and give things away that people have no idea that I do. And but God does, and that he tells me to do. And so yes, I felt satisfied, but if you would have isolated each win, I would say no. But because I got into this, it was like a dopamine joyride. Like, and it was 4 years long, and I was on it, and I was the man. Um, it was just a bad scene, and it was so self-indulgent. And again, I don't think that my brain turned on fully until I was 25 years old. I'm serious. I think until I was 25. So I'm still a kid. I'm rolling through this.
Okay, to be fair, I think for guys, their brains don't fully develop until 25 or 26.
Yes, I agree.
That is a fact.
I completely agree. And a real quick sidebar. I remember I was 25. I came home to visit my mom and dad before I left to go to law school in Florida. And my dad and I were sitting outside talking. And I looked at him and I said, "Dad, I love you." I said, "This is such a good talk." I said, "I feel like we're just talking." Like, and he looked at me with a straight face, completely loving, and he goes, "Eric, your mother and I haven't changed a bit." Making the obvious point that one of us had changed, and we couldn't have civil conversations before because of one of us.
Yeah.
And it was me. So I'm rolling through college, and I'm doing what I'm doing. The whole time I have my family telling me you need to be a lawyer, and because I'm a contrarian, stupidly I'm going, no, I'm not going to be. I don't want to be a lawyer. It's stupid. I don't want to do that. And I think at that time,
Wow, so that was nowhere in your brain.
Never.
Okay.
No. And I just was not. I was super social, super all over the place, shaking hands and kissing babies. Like, I thought politics, I thought, which I don't like now. I was thinking at one point I was hotel restaurant management. And so, but this is the conversation another conversation my dad and I had, which was awesome, was he said, "Eric," he said, "listen," he said, "if you want to run a hotel and own a hotel or whatever you want to do, and you could do that, right? You could do that, that's fine." He goes, "But if you're a lawyer, that gives you keys to doors that you can't unlock if you are only in hotel." He goes, "If you're a lawyer, you can go back and own the hotel." He goes, you can go back and do that. And I argued with him about it until years later. Now I'm a lawyer. And I remember telling my dad one night, and I said, you were right. What every parent wants to hear,
Yeah, he's like,
right?
oh, my
And my dad
heart.
smiled, and he goes, about what? And he goes, I have a list. And
I have
and
no list.
and but he was absolutely correct. And so I've told people that, going, no matter if you feel like you have the same natural giftings that I have, and to any degree, it's worth looking into. If you're creative, you're an abstract thinker, you're go to the march of your own beat, you like I was fired from every job I ever had until I worked for the attorney that hired me out of law school.
Wow.
I was fired because I'm a contrarian. Like, you put me in a place for an extended period of time, especially when it's not in my gifting. Like, if you sit me at a desk and I can't talk to anybody,
Mm-hmm.
I give me 2 weeks before I start causing problems. There are people listening right now that are by nature entrepreneurs, that God has created to be entrepreneurs, and you are torturing your employer. I'm just saying it because I did. You are a problem, and you need to embrace that on the side. Open a job, open something up on the side, and just to get that creative energy out, that independent streak out, and see where it takes you if you trust God. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I got fired from every. It was like I'm like, I really think Walmart's vest should be red and not blue. You're fired. Get out. We know what we're doing. I'm like, okay. So anyway, so I'm going through college, and I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not. I think Hope one time saw how nauseating my resume was that I pulled out of an old box of stuff from college, and she was just like, that is ridiculous. And it was written ridiculously. And so you have years of this buildup of this pride and who I am, and it's going and going and going. I get to graduation, and I remember going, I don't know what I want to do. I'm literally sitting at commencement for Penn State University, and I don't know what I'm going to do with a job, or go get another degree, or go to law school, whatever. So I ended up trying to go to law school, and what I ended up doing was I got accepted, and this is crazy because we'll put a thumbtack in this. I got accepted to basically, it's a fair program, I guess, but it's more as a moneymaker to weed out people. Widener Law School down towards Harrisburg. It's a branch campus of the main Widener Law School. They chose me to enroll in a summertime. It was about a 1.5 month program, 3 class intensive. Basically, we'll give you all this content. You need to understand it. We're going to treat it like a real semester. And at the end, we're going to grade your whole attendance doesn't matter. Your reading assignments don't matter. You do them if you want, not do them, I don't care. But just like in law school, 99% of your grade all hinges upon your curved final exam, right? So, like, if you and I are in regular school anywhere else and we take the same test, you get 100%, I get 100%, that's great. In law school, that is not what happens. It is the best paper in class sets the A, the worst sets the D, and the lion's share are C pluses and B minuses, and and so that's the way that curve works, and it's everybody in those classes would be getting hundreds otherwise, so they have to be very, very rigid on how they do that. So anyway, so we're doing this, and I enroll in this. I moved to Harrisburg. I lived with a gentleman named Jason, who was a current Widener law student. I had no idea what I was doing. And I got down there and lived off campus and attended the classes like I was supposed to and everything. And I took the exams the way I was supposed to in order to get an offer to then be admitted for real to the upcoming fall semester for law school. You had at a minimum to get all C's in order to, on your final exams, in order to be admitted. So I take the exams, and they tell you out the door, like, it's going to take a month or two before we give you the results, so whatever. impulsive Eric goes to the Catskill Mountains with no running water or electricity for a month and a half. Shaved my head. Learned how to make hemp jewelry.
Oh wait, you did have a period of time where you didn't have electricity and running
Oh yeah,
water.
yeah. I was. It was not. So there was. It was a Boy
It
Scout
just
camp.
wasn't the 1900s.
No, no, no. It wasn't just the 1900. I literally went to the Catskill Mountains. It was. I needed to fill time, and a group of guys that I had bounced with as a bouncer in State College at the old Gingerbread Man. He was like this big time, which I was never in Boy Scouts. So shout out to whoever's in Boy Scouts or Eagle Scouts, whatever, because I have respect for it. But at the time, again, he was like the Eagle Scout Master something something, and he ran this entire camp outfit in the Catskill Mountains, which is like 4.5 hours from the nearest people. Like
Wow.
there's nothing. Like there's bears and wolves and mountain lions, and there is nothing. And you get up there, and the guy's name was Bill, who drug me into this. Because I used to lifeguard, so he was like, "Oh, you can lifeguard at the waterfront at this camp," and I'm like, "Cool, whatever, dude. I don't care. Let's go." So we go. His was the only location that had electricity in his cabin, and then all the rest of us were peons living in tents down amidst the animals and the water and everything. I was in phenomenal shape by the end of that summer. I can say because you had to walk everywhere. It was actually a fun experience. But here's what I will never forget. I'll never forget the night. So right. So pause for 1 second. Pause for 1 second. Years and years of winning. Not just one thing, multiple things. That's who I was. It was what was built into me intentionally by me, errantly. I allowed this persona to take on a life and fed it over the course of time through prideful, self indulging things over and 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 over. And I was on this pedestal that I just was it was an impossibility for me to envision a loss. And when I put my mind and purpose and energy into something, and I think we all feel that there's times where we put everything we have into something and it just doesn't work. And we can it can mess us up. Now, put it just not into putting my effort into something, but everything into everything for years. And I remember my mom calling me, and it was late at night, and I remember her calling, and my mom, man, she I'm cut like her, man, and she tore the Band-Aid off. She didn't sugarcoat anything, and I said, "Mom," I said, "What's up? What's wrong?" And she said, "Honey," she said, "we got the results from Widener, and honey, you didn't make it." And have you ever had a situation where, or maybe like when you hear, like if you turn on a noise machine and it's white noise?
Mm-hmm.
I was standing in the middle of the woods, in the dark, in the middle of the night, and it was like white noise. I was knocked off my pedestal, and all that energy and effort and pride, everything, all the eggs were in that basket, man. Everything, all of me was in that, and it was not good enough. And I remember fast walking / jogging away from the people at the camp down a dark trail to get away so that I could cry. And Mom just kept telling me. She just kept saying. She said, "Honey, you're gonna be fine. We're gonna figure it out. You're gonna we're gonna figure it out, right?" And I say this to my kids now, like, no matter what they're facing, no matter what, we're gonna figure it out. We'll get it together. We're gonna make it happen. We'll figure it out. So here is what. Now the result, as bad as that hurt, and it sent me into such a tailspin that it was perfect. Listen, if you are in a tailspin right now, or someone you love is in a tailspin right now, I promise you that if your heart is in the right place and you are seeking God's will to be done, I promise you it's perfect. It's perfect. So, in the moment, obviously, it felt like garbage. I had no idea what I was going to do next. And what became a reality that started to materialize in my mind was the fact that I had to go back to the place I hated, that I had left, basically giving it the middle finger. I had to go back to the place I hated, not as a winner, but losing. That sparked such a fire in me. Just the notion that I had to absorb that. Now again, keep in mind, this is absent Jesus, at least on my side of the fence. Jesus was 100% there. He was there.
He never left.
No. He was front and center, because the other thing that this did was not only did it temporarily take me home, which was nice, but it removed people that he did not have as part of his plan. It removed them from that path.
Isn't that something?
It was, and that hurt.
Yeah, it does.
That hurt. And that was, so I'm like, on top of the fact that I just fell off of this, now I'm losing these people that at the moment, you believe they're supposed to be with you. And then later you look back and realize, no, that was a seasonal friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Bible's very clear. It talks about there's seasons for this and seasons for that. There's also seasons for people in our lives. And they were a seasonal person for me. But I didn't understand that at that time. So I come back and my poor parents, because I literally, I don't even know if I unpacked stuff out of my car. I was like, this is a temporary stop. I am going somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm not staying here. I still had that resentment. Now it was magnified through broken pride and anger and calloused resentment and just not good. I ended up moving. I called an old friend of mine. Her name's Summer. She was a year older than me in high school. Fantastic person. Shout out. She's a principal over Belfont now. She's super nice. Awesome woman. She and her
I think
family.
I remember her just because her name sticks out to me.
Yeah. She was a dear friend of mine, and I knew she lived in Pittsburgh, and I knew that's where it was the closest proximity to energy and activity, just everything that I felt I needed to be in the middle of. I was like, so I called her, and it was awesome. I called her. I was like, Summer, what are you doing? Where do you live? What do you... And she's like, I'm a teacher.
She's like, what is going on?
She's like, I haven't talked to you for a couple years, Eric. What is... I'm like, yeah, I want to catch up and move in with you. What is just temporary? And so she was living up on Mount Oliver with a group of women. They were all teachers, and they were all so gracious to me. They were so kind. And it was the first time in years that I was single. I had no connections. I could do whatever I needed to do, and it's not that far from my mom and dad still, right? So I'm going to Pittsburgh, right? I'm out later. So I move into Mount Oliver. I slept on their sun porch. Seriously, slept on their sun porch, which was not heated. Slept on their sun porch for I think I went to IKEA and bought literally a couch that you fold up into an ottoman, and when you need it to be a couch, you can unfold the pieces, so it's 4 pieces long that are all connected. It was a tall ottoman, but it was and I stayed on their sun porch. All my suitcase, everything was out there. I just was a fly on the wall, and I needed to find a place to work. So I ended up working for a temp agency in Pittsburgh. And for anybody who doesn't know, a temp agency basically, it's you're an independent contractor. If there's businesses that need help doing things like they need help moving their filing system, like literally moving boxes from one building to another, and it's going to take longer than a few days, they will call a temp agency who has, 10, 15 people ready, and they'll just go and work and do that. And I ended up, what was awesome was I ended up getting, the temp agency sent me to a law firm. Yeah. And,
Interesting.
it was interesting. It was in one of the Gateway buildings right downtown Pittsburgh. And I just remember, right? So you back up. I thought this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't know if this is what I wanted to do. And I remember walking in, and man, there's a crazy story. Remind me at the end of this that if
I'm the worst person to
if
remind
you,
you.
I don't want to, you people, it would be a laugh, but it's not worth it. But anyway, so I get into that. I'm testimony, right? I got to stay focused. So I'm working in
You
Pittsburgh.
can sidetrack if you want to tell the
I
story.
will in a second.
Okay.
But what happened was I ended up working at this law firm, and there was a senior partner there. His name was Rick. He was the lead attorney for Blue Cross Blue Shield in northeastern United States at this large law firm in Pittsburgh. And if you could, and if he ever hears this, I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest with you. I hope he is, and I hope he hears this because I'm so thankful to him for the kindness and unwarranted grace that he gave me. But this part, he was the embodiment of Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, like, the rough, gruff, shut up, like, don't talk to me, slamming doors attorney. And he hated young attorneys sucking up to him. He hated this, he hated that. And I was this lowly copy guy that was kind of in the background. And I remember him coming to me for the first time. He said, "What's your name?" I said, I'm Eric, sir." He goes, "I'm Rick." I said, "Nice to meet you, sir." And he goes, "I told you I'm Rick, not sir." I said, "Okay, I got it. Sorry, Rick, I guess. I'm sorry, sir." And he's like, "Whatever." He says, "You're doing copy jobs." I said, "Yes, sir." And this was probably, I'd say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He said, "You good at this?" I said, yes, I am. Yeah." And he goes, "That's all I needed to hear." And he snaps his fingers and yells down the hallway. And he has his secretary of 20 years bring this giant box down and sets it on the table by the copy machine. Now, if you would look at this box of files, it was pristine. It was the accordion file. Inside the accordion were the manila folders that were all tabbed and labeled. Inside of those were the big sticky notes with different colors, and inside of those were the paper clips with the big clips and the just pristine. It was amazing. He says, "Do you think you could do something for me?" And I said, "Yes, sir. What?" And he says, "I need 15 boxes exactly like this by tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. in my office."
Wow.
Exact replicas. By the paperclip. Exact replicas. "Can you do it?" I've always told my kids, somebody asks you, "Can you do it?" You say yes. You figure it out, right? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Which I did. "Yes, sir, I can do it." Okay. He walks away, disappears. I was there all night. And I did it. And at 5:30 in the morning, when I carried those boxes one by one into his office and set them at the foot of his desk, he treated me so well from that day until my last day with them. And it was amazing. He's the one who wrote my letter of recommendation to get into law school.
That's so cool.
Who, if I swear to God, Scrooge, before the Christmas Miracle, like pre-Christmas Miracle Scrooge. Like if anyone would have asked him for anything in that law firm, he would have told him to go pound sand. The copy boy, he wrote a letter of recommendation that took me to Jacksonville, Florida, and changed the trajectory of what God had for me. So I got fired from that job while Rick was on vacation. The office admin who hated me because Rick liked me.
I was gonna say jealousy.
He was jealous, and he waited till Rick went on vacation, and he comes in and he's like, "You're fired. Job's over." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm not done with my project yet. Like I was doing this long-term project that was supposed to lead up. So by this point, I had been accepted to law school down in Jacksonville, and I had probably 4 or 5 months before I was supposed to leave for Jacksonville. And he goes, "You're fired. Get out." And I'm like, "What are you? Okay." I said, "Fine." So I went into Rick's office. It's dark because he's not there because he's on vacation. And I hand wrote him a note thanking him for just how kind he was and how inspiring he was to me, and how I came in not knowing whether I wanted to be a lawyer, and I'm now leaving knowing what I want to do, and just thanking him for that. And so and I'll just note, which one of the women, Donna, who worked there, who was adorable, she was so awesome. She called me about 3 weeks later, so I'm at home with my mom and dad, and I'll explain that. But I was home with mom and dad. Donna calls me from Pittsburgh, and she goes, "Rick just fired that guy for firing me." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, he turned his desk over and told him to get out."
Wow.
And I was like, I have to admit, I was satisfied.
Yeah.
I was like, "Awesome, you deserve that." I think the guy's name was Don. He was a butthead, but anyway, so I essentially was faced with the question of whether I was going to find another temp job for the last 4 months and stay in. Oh, and by the way, I was no longer living on the sun porch at this point. I was living in the. I'll just say it. I was living in the slums at the top of Mount Oliver, going up. It's on the south side. I think it's 18th Street. You go up towards Mount Oliver, and I mean crack houses, boarded up windows surrounding me. Mine was. I had rats in my apartment. When I say apartment, my apartment was 2 rooms.
No, thank you.
And the rats were bigger than most
Ugh.
small dogs. And they were those Pittsburgh River rats. They were disgusting. Whatever. But literally I had to step out of the shower and turn around and step back in to wash my back. Okay? Like, my bed was my box spring, my mattress, and they were on cinder blocks.
Makes me think of the Elf movie.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Except
just,
not
like,
as
literally
funny in
popped
rats.
into my
Yes,
head.
no, but I get
The shower boy.
he was so huge for that. Yeah, no, and it was such a small apartment. But it's I mean, public transportation the whole time I was there. Just drugs everywhere. Before drugs was a thing the way it is now, like it was bad. And I'm going, do I stay here for the last 4 months, or do I go home? And I'll just mention something real quick too, because this is God's given this to me as I feel like He's poking me, saying you need to mention this. So amidst all of this, right? I'm still imperfect. I'm definitely imperfect. I'm an absolute mess. I'm living in the slums in Pittsburgh. This crazy poor white kid, like I had somebody steal $20 from me, and I beat the crap out of him on the bus. I told the bus driver, I said, "Stop the bus." I said, "Don't move the bus until I get back." And he goes, "Don't go back there." And I said, because I dropped the money and I just saw hands and somebody took it. And I said, I pulled the string to stop the bus because it was my stop. I walked up, set my briefcase down. I was in a $98 JCPenney suit. And I said, don't move the bus until I get back here. Don't pull away. And I went back. God told me, I didn't know it was God at the time. I knew exactly who it was, even though when it happened, I saw no one's face. Because I dropped a pile of money and I see hands and hands handing it back to me, but I saw one go.
Mm.
And that money was to go towards, because I was poor, that money was specifically designated, it was earmarked to go towards buying a piece of stereo equipment so that I could DJ that weekend when I went home for my brother's birthday party, my little brother. And I see money disappear, and I went back. I dealt with the guy and his dad, and got the money back. And the bus driver was this older gentleman. He was African American, and he's looking at me like, you are a nut, like you are a nut job. And I looked at him and I leaned down to him and I said, thank you for not going. Thank you. And I picked up my stuff, walked off the bus, and walked the opposite direction from my apartment, in case anybody was going, where's that kid live? Because we're going to come back later. But so amidst all of that, and those are the encounters I'm having, I specifically remember at the bottom of 18th Street at a bus stop, there was an older gentleman who was getting on the bus as I was getting off. And I'm 6'1", 6'2", he was 5'7", I'd say. Older gentleman, white beard, like a mini Santa Claus. But I remember him having a big, those cross necklaces that have the leather, they're like the leather band, and then the like thick wood cross, and like big and gnarly looking. And he had a little hat on and all this stuff. And now I think back and I'm like, oh my goodness. But I go to get off the bus, and as I'm coming off, I don't know, I forget if he dropped something or if I let him do something or I let him on and I stood there and helped him on, or I forget exactly what gesture I made to help him or to be helpful to him. But he looked one way to me and sounded one way when he spoke to me. And then as my head turned, I felt him grab my arm, and I stopped and looked back. And he said, you know that God loves you, right? Mm. He sounded different. And it's stupid me in the moment. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I'm like, can you let go of me? But it left a lasting impression on me, because then I get done and I'm like, that's an odd thing for him to say to me. Like, again, you don't tell me what to do. Like, you don't invade my space. You don't, that's just naturally my, and this guy, it was such a warm voice. Like, when I say he sounded different, like, he was nice when we were encountering each other in the exchange on and off the bus. But it was different when he grabbed me and he said that, you know, God loves you, right? And I needed to hear that. And I didn't know it then that I needed to.
I love stories like that.
I needed to hear it, right? So, okay. And again, I know I accepted Jesus when I was younger, but this was still not Jesus and Eric together yet. This is still me I'm still a mess, but this was me mess, okay? And I'm like, okay, I am so, like, I just got fired. This is a waste. I'm going home, man. I'm out. Like, I'm going back to mom and dad's for 4 months. I'll figure it out. So I go back and move back to Stronach, which is a suburb of Grampian. I moved back there, right? And we have one red light. It's awesome. And I'm at that point, it was interesting because I think I was past the being angry at the place. I think Pittsburgh did that for me. I think seeing it really opened up my appreciation for what was here in this area versus what is in those places, especially with the crack houses and the drugs and the confrontations that are everywhere, and just that being on guard constantly, and my being able to be home for 4 months and having my guard down was cool. So, but despite all that, and I was happy to go home. I was for a little bit before I left for Florida. But here was crazy. Still, I was angry. I got fired. Like that was my plan. Like I was gonna ride it until I went to Florida. But again, it was perfect, right? So again, we're taking a fall off the pedestal moment, derail the eggs in the basket, dump them out, and looking back, it was absolutely perfect. Because here's what happened that summer I moved back. That summer I moved back, I ended up meeting and working for Skip Kerber, who ended up being the mentor and attorney that was one of my spiritual mentors, one of my best friends, and was my legal mentor, primary legal mentor, through the duration of our relationship together professionally until he passed away. And also that summer, I met my wife, and which was crazy because she was so on the week during the weekdays I was working at the law firm, and to make extra money I went back to bouncing, and it's I think it's gone now, but it used to be the old Holiday Inn off of Interstate 80 in Du Bois, and the first 2 years of college at Penn State Du Bois I was a bouncer there, and so I was like, I'll go back and do it on Friday, Saturday nights, whatever. Well, Hope was, unbeknownst to me, she was attending a wedding, and then a wedding reception that was being held at the Holiday Inn. And I was always a bouncer. I was never a bartender. I didn't know anything about bartending. And that one occasion, um, the bartender manager Daggy, she said, Eric, she goes, I'm short a bartender at this banquet, at this wedding reception. Could you do it with me? And I'm like, Daggy, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't think you want me to.
I was like, literally, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not going to work. And this is before we had, Grok or ChatGPT where I could look up drink contents on the fly. I was like, whatever. And so she forced me to do it, basically. That's the type of woman Daggy was. She was awesome. And so I did it. And I remember seeing my wife the first time. And I remember, because very uncharacteristically of me, she walked in, I saw her, and I turned and I knocked about 20 wine glasses off the edge of the bar. And the whole wedding party
and you looked
stopped.
at her and you're like, I told you didn't want me.
And yeah, and Daggy goes, what is wrong with you? Because she knew me. She knew that I wasn't klutzy or clumsy. And so I'm like, and of course Hope, and like I didn't know her at the time, Hope and all the bridesmaids and everybody's like stopped on a dime and they're looking at the bar because like 20 wine glasses all hit at the same time and smashed. And I'm like, okay. And it ended up that night that she thought I was cute, and it was because I was giving her too much alcohol, I think, and more than the drink called for on purpose. So I got better and better looking as the night progressed, and that was it. We exchanged numbers, and so I ended up leaving for Florida, I think 3 weeks, 3 weeks after I met her. Okay, so she got her master's here in Pennsylvania. She was a teacher, so she got her master's in education. I went to Jacksonville, Florida, in a 1991 white Chevy Beretta, a twin mattress folded in half in the back seat. All my belongings were in contractor style garbage bags, and that car was a death trap. And I waved adieu to everybody and started my journey south on 95 for about 14 and a half hours. My kids, I would be terrified. Like, I think my poor mother and father were like, oh my gosh,
I know the things we did and went through. It's like, oh my goodness.
Oh, horrible. And I'll tell you, even this is something, and again, you can't, I'm driving down 95, and you know how, like, when you're running with a group of people, now again, I just keep saying this was pre-Jesus on my side of the fence, but Jesus was there, right? Because it was so crazy. We're driving down 95, and you know how when you're running on the interstate, a lot of times you'll get around kind of the same group of cars, and you're running and running with them for miles and miles and miles, especially long distance stuff, and you just kind of get used to that group. So, I a, a bunch of the group cars in the group all just, I was like, I gotta use the restroom. I need to pull over. I'm gonna grab a drink, whatever. So I pull over. A bunch of the cars, we'll say 8 or 9 cars, just happen to all kind of pull off, and we go to a rest stop. And I don't know these people, and do my thing, whatever. And kind of, I'd say half of us all kind of pull back out onto the interstate and start going. And it wasn't 2 exits from that. I'd say 2 exits. I had to go to the bathroom again. Like, I had to pee. And I'm going, I just went. I'm not pulling over. Right? Like, I'm one of those Nazis. Like, people wear diapers in that car. Like, you are not stopping. We are getting to our destination. And we're not stopping. And it was one of the first times that I felt like I didn't hear God, but I felt my intuition pushing me off the interstate. And so I did. I quickly went, peed as quick as I could, run back out because I don't want to fall more time back, jump back in the Beretta, go out. I'm going onto the on ramp and stop in traffic. Mm. That whole group of cars, probably 400 yards after the exit, were all in an accident. And they were everywhere, all over the interstate. And I would have been right in the middle of all of them if he hadn't. Right? So you got to listen, right? Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, man, if you're hearing that voice, that, like the Bible says, that still small voice, if you learn to hear that and trust that over the course of time, instead of running to your friends and asking for advice, they don't know anything. Yes, don't go to them. Please. Right? Like, you don't have to. If you can listen to that in the moment and shut up the doubt that you have because of our own hang-ups and insecurities, and we can go, no, I know I just did that, and I know it's a waste of time, and I know, you know what, I'm gonna follow this urge. I'm gonna do it. I promise you, you're gonna have a pulling back onto the rampway moment sooner or later where you go, thank you, Jesus, right? That number one, you told me, and number two, thank you, God, that I listened, because that would have been a train wreck. So that's just me getting to Jacksonville. So I get to Jacksonville, and I promise this is leading up to it. So I get down to Jacksonville. I had no idea where I was going, which was crazy. I get down to Jacksonville, and I got an apartment by myself. I was not going to live with a roommate. I was 100% like, I'm doing this on my own. I'm not going to have distractions. My nickname, my first couple semesters in law school, they called me Turtle because I was in my shell, man. Like, and that's odd for, like, yeah, I'm a social person, right? Like, but I needed to get this win. Mm-hmm. I needed to get back what I wanted to do. And I knew now from being in Pittsburgh that this is what I wanted to do. And so I was just like, I'm doing this. And so I get down there, and of course, you make friends and you get to see everything. And they say in law school, they say the first year they scare you to death, the second year they work you to death, and the third year they bore you to death. And it's all Socratic method teaching. Like, there's no raising your hands. Like, you get called on. And it's like, Eric, I'm going to stick with you for the next 45 minutes in front of 250 people, and we're going to dialogue about this case. And so you better have read it, or you're going to look stupid. Like, I saw professors horribly. Like, I saw a professor one time, a girl didn't read, and he said, you go ahead and read it. And he crawled up onto the table at the front of the class and used his backpack as a pillow and said, I'm going to take a nap. You go ahead and indulge yourself. Get that taken care of, and you wake me up when you're ready to talk. This little girl is crying, right? And this is the competitive nature. And so then, and I'll add to it, before the internet really blew up, right? Like, I'm one of those kids that's like, I'm a Gen X, but right at the edge of it. Like, we were the first, like, we didn't have, there was a huge window of my all of my teens and into my adult, like, I don't think I had a cell phone until I was 22,
Yeah, I didn't.
right? Like,
When I was
there's
18.
a big part where we didn't have any, um, and and so, like, now in law school, well, research this and research that, and like I said, super competitive, super. You get one person gets an A, two people maybe, and everybody else gets garbage grades. We had research assignments where we had to go to the library. I would go to the library, and there were pages ripped out of books. People would rip them out so you couldn't find them,
Wow.
so that they'd beat you. Okay,
That's
this is
crazy.
this is the environment that you're created in. This is the mold that they're putting you in, this pressure and this stress and this whatever that you learn to deal with. So I am hunkered down a million miles an hour, all study all the time. I'm back on track, man. I'm gonna win. You had to have a 2.0 cumulative GPA. If you got less than that, the next semester, you were kicked out at the end of the second semester if you could not get your cumulative up above a 2.0. I'll never forget getting my grades back at the end of the first semester, and I had a 1.78. I called my mother, and I'm going, it's happening again. Right? But this time I'm 1,400 miles away. I feel like I've grown. I feel like I'm a different person now because which I know I was because I had matured through Pittsburgh and that. And but I'm still stuck. What is wrong with me? Like, what is this? Now, do you remember the floating feeling I told you about when I accepted Jesus as a junior in high school? At the beginning of law school, I had started to remember that feeling. Not experience it, but remember what it felt like. There's a difference, right? And I remember how good I felt. And I remember quietly wanting that feeling back. And I remember knowing, but not admitting what it was that gave me that feeling, right? I knew deep down that it was God. I knew deep down it was submission. I knew deep down, but all of that was so contradictory to who I was, who I had to be in order, in that moment, how I perceived I needed to be in order to do what I was supposed to do. It was not submit. It was not not making concessions. It was the opposite, right? I needed to push through and do this. So all of that, those urges and those things, and when I got those grades, it was like God hit a light switch where, take the darkest dark, you can't see your hand in front of your face, and you hit a panel of lights of 200 lights, and it just illuminates. I knew exactly what he wanted. I knew exactly what he wanted. And that was the first, I say talk, it was more yelling, the first talk that I ever had with God. And I was done. To say I was at the end of myself is the understatement of the century. I was so emotionally, physically, psychologically, I was so exhausted of trying to do better by myself. I was done. And I told him I was done. I told him I was done. And it ended in my dining room, right? So, like, I'm very visual when I have to learn things. So, dining room table, day two, living in this apartment, got thrown out in the backyard. It was gone. It was an empty room with an 8 foot long dry erase board on the wall, and that's where I would pace and do all my. I would read off the dry erase board, and that's how I'd memorize things, and that's just how I learn. Is drawing it out and then vocalizing it and hearing myself vocalizing it through memorization. And but this day I was pacing and yelling and crying and pacing and yelling and crying, and it ended with absolute and utter submission. And I can say that if my heart was wide open, man, like that was the end all be all, right? So God knows our hearts inside and out, not only because he created them, but he knows, right? And
he allows our free will,
yeah,
and he still pursues us.
it's
And his
amazing.
hand is in everything.
It's amazing. And you know, people don't know the thoughts we have. People don't know the asks that we make. People don't know the level of energy that we put into something. People see the outward reflection, that they see the result in front of them, and I do it too. I drastically underestimate the amount of energy, time, sacrifice that goes into these resulting things. God knows every ounce of quiet moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he just does. And so when I told him I am done, I said, here's the deal, God. I said, if you don't want me to be a lawyer, I'm not going to be a lawyer. Fine. 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 I don't need it. I submit to you. I give you everything that I am. I said, but if you want me to do this and do it for you, then you have to run the show because I can't. I said, I can't do it. I'm failing. Like, you have to do it. And when I say that, how raw it was in the sincerity, the depth of the sincerity cannot be understated. It cannot be downplayed. And that, if our kids are talking to us in that sense, we're going to react and respond with more vigor and with more bold determination, knowing how exposed they are, with a fury that is righteous. And that's exactly what he did. From that moment, I can tell you, from that day to this, not once has he failed me. Not once. He has been faithful. And here's the other thing. If you don't know how you communicate with God, you need to figure it out, because I know that there's different ways that different people communicate with God. Because I am so impulsive and because I'm so stubborn naturally and because I am so contrarian, if I get my mind on a task or on accomplishing something, my communication with God sounds like this, literally out loud. God, you need to slam this door in my face so abruptly and blatantly, make it so obvious, so that I know it is you, and it's impossible for me. Make me see that it is impossible, because otherwise I'll push through and get myself into trouble.
I literally just prayed one of those prayers recently.
Serious. And I'm telling you, people need to, they need to pray out. Like, I used to be one of the, there's some, God, right? I'm not going to sit here and talk about what prayers God hears and what he doesn't, but I know that when a sincere heart is vocalized, especially loudly, in his direction, with a submissive and curious and childlike heart, going, show me what to do. Show me. What especially God, but what parent isn't going to step in and show them what to do?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a parent's heart, that's right. Like, he's going to step in. He's going to respond. And it might not be in that moment, but if you continue to listen, he's going to show you. So here's what happens. So I submit, and I think the game's over, right? And now we're starting semester number 2. Once, this is the other thing for people who don't understand this, once you start getting your GPA to a certain level, that's why when people go to college, or any, when you're calculating a GPA, you want the first few semesters to be as high as possible, because that cumulative GPA over the course of time is very hard to move from its initial number. The more you add to first semester, second semester, by third semester, you're kind of locked into that range, a very narrow range of where your GPA is going to move. So mine started off at a 1.78, right?
Mm-hmm.
Garbage, right? Semester 2 and 3, semester 2 had to get me to a 2.0. It had to, or else I was gone. I was going back to Pennsylvania. And even if I went back up above a 2.0, if my grades the third semester or any semester thereafter would drag me below a cumulative 2.0, I'm gone.
Wow.
Okay? And I had friends who they were gone by second, third semester. They were out, right? In law school, you don't end with the same group of people you start with. They parse them out, and they, for all different reasons, but grades is a big piece, and you're done. Okay? So, after I submitted, I felt better. I felt I knew what I needed to do, and I knew that this second semester was on God, not on me. As long as I did what I did the first semester, as far as not screwing off and as far as putting time and energy into working at my studies, the outcome was on him. It took all the pressure off me. And that's how fully submitted I was. Now, I still would have been upset if I would have gotten kicked out, but
Right.
I wouldn't have blamed myself on the backside, right, as heavily. And so God was in it with me. And I'm like, fine, you want to... It's like a relationship. It's almost like, right? Like, where you're like, I'm going to give this person a little bit of trust and see if they disappoint me, see if they follow through, see if they come through like they say they're gonna. It sounds like a bunch of hocus pocus we're going to see. And I can tell you that it wasn't hocus pocus. I can tell you that I was doing the same exact thing second semester that I had done the first semester, but the results were absolutely opposite. I can tell you that I got Best Oral Advocate my second semester out of my entire class. I got that award, which bumped my... And I'm going, oh, Jesus, this works. What the heck? Right? And then my grade... So I get my... I'm just, all these things are going... My efforts are remaining the same, but I'm searching. I begin to search in my apartment actively and daily, start searching for God. So the way I did that was I got on Christian Broadcasting Network, which again, now everybody knows what it is if you're a Christ follower. But back in the day, I don't think we had it on the channels up in Pennsylvania back then. But Florida is like in the buckle of the Bible Belt, so it was on. And I remember I listened to Joyce Meyer, I listened to T.D. Jakes, and I listened to Ron Carpenter. And I went and bought a Bible. I bought Joyce Meyer's Bible, actually. And I...
Shout out.
Shout out to Joyce Meyer. Oh, and I got something... there's a whole other story. I got to see her, but we'll get to that. It was crazy how God just was like giving me cherries on top everywhere as I wrapped up in Florida. But so I'm going through this, and I'm when I'm reading the Bible, so I constantly kind of, during that window of time, I had Christian Broadcast Network turned down low. It's in the background playing in my apartment. And when I'm reading the Word, I was not reading a lot. I wasn't reading for length. I was reading, I like words, and I want to know meanings, and I was tearing and wringing out sentences and looking in the dictionary at what words meant and trying to get every piece. And I was writing all through the margins of my Bible everything I could everything I could find, and just if you, I literally was. I just picture myself just wringing out those sentences and getting everything out of them that I could because I wanted to. I didn't know it at the time, but I wanted to know who he was, right? And so that's how I personally, since I'm into words, that's where it drove me. Then here was awesome. So this was cool. This is, and I'm gonna, guys, I do not cry, and except for when I talk about this stuff, I don't cry, and this is hard, but it's so good. Um, so as the Christian Broadcast Network was playing, there was a commercial that would run, and again, I had not listened to Christian music at all. And in fact, any Christian music that I had listened to, I disliked because number one, I didn't think the quality was any good. And number two, I just had no interest in that culture for those years. I just was, so I didn't resent it, but I had no interest in it. However, I remember that commercial coming on, and I don't remember what was in the commercial, but I remember the song. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I found myself turning the TV up to try to listen for the commercial to come on. Because that song, it was the first time that God was using music to fill me up. Later, I would learn that that's one of the primary ways that God fills me up. That's how he created me, was through worship. Through music, and I did not. I was oblivious. It was new. It was like, it was like, I just picture. I just picture being in the desert and being stuck in the desert without water, and you don't even realize, you're so delusional. You don't even know how bad you need the water until someone puts it on your lips, and you're like, "What is that? I need that. Where has that been?" And that was that song. That was what was coming out. And so once I figured out the name of the song, I'm going to date myself again.
I was going to say, do you remember it?
I think I went to Napster and downloaded it. Napster, shout out
Good
to
old
Napster.
Napster.
It was so ridiculous. It was, yeah, I remember it. It was the live version. So like, I love live Christian music. Like so if there's ever a chance to hear a studio recording versus a live, I love the crowd because I feel like that's what heaven's going to be like.
I know, I love hearing that.
I love the sing back from the crowd, and it was a live version of I think the guy's name was Israel something, and the name of the song was "I'm a Friend of God," and for a number of different reasons. Like, it's funny now because I can hear the song and it's still a good song. But again, it was a seasonal song. God wanted to use that as a tool to get me to the next heart condition that he needed me to be in to put me on the path that he ultimately needed me to go. And so I'm listening to that song, and once I get it on Napster, now it's on repeat. So like, I'm studying for law school. I'm doing my thing. I'm in the word ringing sentences out. I have Christian Broadcast Network. I had a giant fish tank, which I love. So I have my fish, and I'm just living the dream, man. Like, and Hope, we're wearing batteries on phones out, watching. This was cute. I'll give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Hope. How many phones did we kill, honey? How many phones? we would do date night on a Friday night. We'd go to like a Blockbuster and each rent the same movie and go in and put them in the VCR. She's in Pennsylvania, I'm in Florida, and we would go 1, 2, 3, and we press play at the same time and watch the movies together on speakerphone. And it was so stupid, but it's what we needed in order to stay connected during those 3 years of law school, and it was awesome. It was awesome. It was cool. So I'm doing all this, and I feel like God was like, you need to go to church. And you used to go to church. I need you to be part of a church. And I'm like, I don't know where one is. I am like in this little corner of Jacksonville, Florida. I was not venturing out very much because I was a hobbit studying, and I was not like willing to. So this is crazy. So I go to campus. You think about how random. It's not random, but it was for me. And I walk onto a law school campus, which is overly liberal at the education system. Even back then, it's more so now, but even then was liberal. And I was a conservative, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to walk around the professor's building because their offices, so long corridor, and all of their office fronts were glass walls. So they had their glass door and their glass wall. So you could literally look at them like fish in a fishbowl as you're walking through this building. And I figured I'm just going to walk and see who I see that's going to throw up a signal that Jesus wants me to see that goes, you can talk to them about church. And so, like, and I'll tell you what, I'm walking and I hit, her name was Professor Susan Dykoff. She was a contracts professor. Phenomenal woman. Great, brilliant legal mind. She actually was, before she was a professor, I believe that she was a commercial transactions attorney, which I would hope to make her proud because that's the primary crux of what I do now. But sidebar, she was fantastic. And I walked past her office and there was a painting on her wall. I would say it was 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide. And it was a painting, an oil painting of Jesus dressed in a white robe, and in front of him, so Jesus was behind a guy, the guy in front of him was dressed in regular street clothes, and he looked like he was exhausted and passed out, like he was, and Jesus had him under the armpits, holding him up. The guy is unconscious, and in one hand, the guy's hands are hanging to his sides, and at one hand, he has the hammer that is falling out of his hand, and in the other hand, he has the spike that is falling out of his hand, and Jesus is holding him up, and you can see the holes in his hand, and so I was like, that's definitely the person I'm going to go talk to, right? So I go in, introduce myself, and she was awesome. And she said, you need to go to this church, blah, 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 blah. This is the time the services are, all this stuff. Now, I'm telling everybody this for a reason because, like, it's go big or go home with me. And God has never let me down. And this is how he does stuff in my life. And it's go big or go home. And it's crazy, right? So I'm like, cool. I found a church. I'm going to look up, back in the day, we had to map quest it and print out the instructions on how to get there.
How did we ever do it?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Right? Like, I'd love to see our kids try to get around with a map today.
Oh my gosh. No way.
They would be, and then if you write the map in cursive, they would be lost. Like, they wouldn't know how to read it or anything.
Think it's a treasure map.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go to this church. And I wake up Sunday morning, and I cannot tell you for the life of me what caused it. But I was late. And I remember, I don't know if anybody can relate, but like when you're late for church, is anybody like me where you're not in the greatest Jesus mood? And like, if any mood is the opposite of Jesus, it's typically Eric running late to church mood. And like, you're going to get pulled over. You're going to probably say some things to your kids you shouldn't say. Like, you're probably going to argue with your spouse and you never argue with them. Like, that's the tension, right? So, and now I'm driving in a place that I'm not familiar with, trying to read a stupid map while I'm in the middle of traffic. And I remember, so like, if you can picture this with me, right? So picture this. Anybody who's from around here, if they are aware of or they've ever seen, if you haven't, jump online and check it out. Tri-County Church of God, the Du Bois campus. For our area that is a smaller geographic and populated area, they call it On the Hill. So On the Hill is a big campus. Okay, and I don't have the exact numbers because they've remodeled a couple times. Great church is our Tri-County Church of God is our church, and we go to the Clearfield campus. But On the Hill is phenomenal. They house over 1,000, maybe 2,000 people, at capacity. They remodeled, so I can't speak to the exact numbers anymore. But it's a massive church for in stark contrast to the standard church in a small town, which has the pews and is right. We all know these churches. We grew up in them. We may still attend them, and they're still fantastic, as long as they're alive. And they maybe have 50 people, maybe they have, right? Okay, so take Tri County on the Hill and multiply that by 10 to 15 times. This was a mega church. It was massive. Okay, so when I pull into this parking lot, it's one of the biggest parking lots. It's like pulling into PNC Park parking lot, or the Pittsburgh Steeler parking lot. It's massive. Okay, the amount of pavement work that they paid for is in the millions easily. I promise. That nonprofit church paid for. So I'm going, goodness gracious. So I pull into this parking lot because I'm late. The church parking lot is packed.
You have to walk miles.
You have to walk miles in the hot sun, semi-jogging because I'm late and I'm angry. And so I park, and I'll never forget, right? So the entrance to this place was all glass, and it was probably, I'm going to get it wrong, I would say 50 to 80 foot tall glass front into the lobby that was a lot of glass on the outside, so a lot of sunshine. It was wide open, everything like that. And if you'd be on time coming to a church like that, you would probably get energized and greeted right away. Hi, welcome to our church. We're glad to have you. You want refreshments, they're here. If you need this, you're that. Because I was late, it was a ghost town. I opened the glass doors and there was not a human being in the lobby. This massive lobby that the size of the lobby alone could fit most standard size. It would fit 5 churches.
Wow.
5 standard sized churches just in the lobby. It was massive. The marble floor, your shoes are echoing as you're walking. And I remember, as I'm panicked and embarrassed and angry and frustrated, and I'm walking and I'm late, and I remember seeing the doors going in. There were multiple doors, and the door that was closest to me, I started walking towards, and these doors were floor to ceiling oak doors, probably 10 feet tall. Almost think of like, the big doors to get in to see the Wizard of Oz, where the little guy sticks his head out the hole and talks. Those giant double, like, you open them towards you, big brass oversized handles, wow. Right? Like, to open to go into into the sanctuary. And I remember the oomph, 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 the music. They were worshiping. And I was late, right? And I'm going, son of a gun. And I'm like semi-jogging.
My favorite part.
I know, right? And I didn't even know literally, I had never been to a contemporary church before. I didn't know any other song other than that one song. But it sounded awesome. So I'm like, okay, we're going. All of this stuff. I grab the door handles. I pull the doors open, and they are singing my song.
Oh my gosh.
They're singing, I'm a friend of God. And this is the significance. All of the stuff before that, right? And even the few weeks ahead of this, where I was yelling at God and talking to him. This was the first time that I knew that God was real. Because I could have walked in any state to a church. I could have walked in to any of the thousands of churches in Florida, the millions of moments in that church, the thousands of song sets that were sung on Sundays. And I walked in. What are the odds? I mean, you calculate that out. If you're an intellectual being and you're trying to, because I've run those numbers, and the odds are inconceivable that it was anything other than intentionally orchestrated by the creator of the universe for me. Let that sink in. In those moments, right? In those moments where only He can hear and know our thoughts and know our heart, in those moments, He keeps track of those. He knows them. And He uses those. Right when you need to hear it. Right when you need to encounter Him. He has it teed up like a golf shot. He has it served up on a platter, waiting for me to walk in so that He can show me who He is. I was sold. That was it. End of story. That was the end of my questioning. That was the end of my arguments, my argumentative nature and spirit with Him. That was the end of my trust issues with Him. It was the end. I didn't get my second foot in the door. It did not break. It didn't break the plane of the door. And I was His. I was done. Okay? And here's the craziest part. You've been sitting here listening to this crazy story. This is just the beginning. Right? This is how He started the story. This is the opening scene. Right? We're not even close to the end yet. We're not even to the big parts yet. This is just the beginning. And if He did it for me, He does it for you if you accept Him and trust Him. So, you've seen me in church. You see that I worship. And for anybody who attends a contemporary church or any type of worship event, no matter where you attend or if you attend, and you look around and see people with their hands up in the air and you're going, what are they doing?
Yeah, because at first that's like, completely weird.
Oh, it's totally weird.
You just feel out of your comfort zone. You're like, what is going on?
It's stupid, is what it, like, you're just like, what is this? Now, again, I'll add to my list of natural characteristics. Unless you are in my inner circle, which I have a very small inner circle of people, I have a lot of acquaintances, and I'm nice. I try to be nice to everybody. I'm a mess, so I mess up, but I try to be nice to everybody, but I have a very small inner circle. Unless you are in my inner circle, one of my natural tendencies is I do not care what you think of me. I just don't. I'm not doing it to be defiant. I'm doing it because I'm focused on what I'm doing, and spending energy even contemplating the notion that you should be influencing my decision making is an utter waste of time.
Right. I think that's how it should be for everyone.
But it's a struggle.
I wish I had it.
Right? And
I'm a people pleaser for sure.
It is, but here's the first thing. Be thankful that you understand that about yourself, right? Because there's so many, how many people do we know walking around in our daily lives that don't have that understanding of themselves? They just don't. And they're not self-reflective, and they're not intentionally looking into how to not change it, but how to temper it so that it doesn't affect you negatively, right? So all that said, I just don't care what people think about me and when it comes to my decision making and stuff, which I think is one thing that makes me an effective leader and business owner. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Worship when we walk.
Oh yeah, so that's exactly. Thank you. So we're doing I obviously, right? Like I walk in and I'm late and I'm crying. So to this church service, so I find myself in the back of the church, and just like any contemporary church or any church for that matter, I'm guessing, back then it was the same. The people sitting towards the back were less likely to be worshiping. They didn't have their hands up. They were more seekers, like I was at the time, trying to get a feel for the vibe of what was going on. And everybody up front had their hands up worshiping, and the worship was killer. It was so good at that church. And shout out to Pastor Stovall Weems. It's
You amazed me at
Celebration
all
Church.
these names that you remember.
Celebration Church. I think he's actually on. He's on Christian Broadcast Network now.
Wow.
That's how big of a church it is. And I pray that he has stayed the course and surrounded himself with strong men to keep him protected and grounded. But nonetheless, here's what happened is I didn't know why I felt the urge so strongly, but my very first time I was like, I need to put my hand up. I need to worship. But I couldn't because I was afraid of what people were going to think of me. Which is not me. That is not me. And so I knew, because it's not me, I knew it was someone else. I knew it was the enemy. I had just accepted Jesus and I knew this. I knew. And because of my combative, contrarian, pig-headed natural tendency, I was like, that's not going to work, enemy. That's not going to work. I walked out of that service, did not raise my hand, and I was so angry at myself. Next week, I'll add this. If you don't know what putting the hands up is, I had actually our pastor Gunther at Tri-County Clearfield. He explained this to me one time. He's a phenomenal singer, and he was much younger than me, but I mentioned it to him one time, and I said, he goes, this is how it was explained to me. He said, Eric, he goes, if you're in a convenience store and somebody walks in with a gun and puts a gun to your face, what do? You say, put your hands up. And I say, yeah. And he goes, that action of putting your hands up, what is it signifying of you, about you? Surrender.
Full surrender.
Full surrender. I'm surrendered. He goes, that is what you're doing when you worship. He goes, that's what encapsulates that activity and that intention. You're fully surrendered and thankful. So, for anybody who never heard that, I hope that gives you a little bit of, because that's helped me. But the next week, I was there 20 minutes early. I sat in the front row. I swear it was so ridiculous. I hope that Jesus was laughing because the very first note of the very first song, I didn't know what the song was. I didn't feel led, but I put my hand up and worshiped as soon as that first note hit, as basically an FU to the enemy, going, we're not playing this game from the beginning. I'm telling you no, and I'm going to do it because I want to do it. And I picture Jesus going, there you go. There you go. That's my boy. That's when that spirit is a good spirit. That's when that natural tendency, that's an example of it being used for a good purpose. Because so many of us are caught, and I am in many ways too, we are bound by chains that are unseen, that we have created or inherited. Some through blood, some through just exposing ourselves when we shouldn't have been exposed to people, or seeing or hearing things that we were not intended to hear or see. And we are bound by these unseen chains. So any opportunity that we have to cut it out at the source and to break the chain, snap the chain off at the floor, you take it. And I'm telling you, it's never been an issue with me. Now, I've always been a worshiper from that day forward, and it is literally, it's an art form. Like, to be able to put your mind into a place of thankfulness and forget Forget about what you have coming up this week. Forget about what you just went through this week. Forget about what you have right after church. Forget about whether the kids did this or that. Forget about whether the house is clean or dirty. Forget about the list of chores or groceries. Focus on thankfulness. And to close your eyes and to be able to just tell your dad, I appreciate it, thank you. I need you. And he hears it. And he reciprocates it. He reciprocates it. So now I'm going to, I've accepted Jesus. I'm going to this church, and I'll just throw this out here, which was crazy. So I ended up graduating at the top of my class in law school. Okay. So not only, like, my cumulative GPA jumped hurdles, which was supposed to be an impossibility. My grades were through the roof. I ended up graduating, not just as an honor, but with high honors, at the top of my class. It was all Jesus. I did not change a thing in my study habits, which is just unbelievable to me. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so you have that. Then one of my last semesters there in Florida, I remember I was excited because I was hoping to get to see Hillsong United, who was coming down and doing a concert in Jacksonville. But I was ready to buy the tickets, and I was ready to get to go because, right, so, like, I am on fire for Jesus, and, like, I'm making CDs and, like, sending them home to I'm burning Jesus music CDs.
Do you still have those that you can pass
I
down
do, actually. I actually do. And I'm sending them to my mom and dad who weren't accepted Jesus yet, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, what are you doing? And, like, I'd come home, and, like, I'm telling them all about Jesus, and they're like, okay, like, you need to settle. Like,
who are you?
Yeah, like, you're a nut job. And so I'll add this too. What I hope accepted Christ while she was attending Tri-County Church in Du Bois, almost at the same time that I accepted Christ in Jacksonville, Florida. And even though we were wearing phones out, it was a taboo topic that neither of us were at that point talking about, until we finally talked about it and realized that God did it almost at the same exact time, and we both accepted Jesus, and so the way that we were acting with each other changed at the same time. The way that what we expected from each other changed at the same time, and we just think that we're in love and we're whatever, and it's meant to be. So stupid. And it was Jesus. He was in the middle of it, and and it was just crazy. And so, but here's what with the Jacksonville part, I'll end it with this. It was pretty cool. So I had an exam, and I could not see Hillsong, and because I could not skip my final exam for this class, and I tried every way to get around it. So I ended up taking the final exam. I missed Hillsong. And it was about 2 weeks later in church where the Pastor Stovall, gets up and he goes, 2 things. We have 2 surprise things that are coming up. They completely are random. They were not expected or planned whatsoever, but they've just hit our calendar and we're going to let it happen. Our church is going to host Hillsong United next week.
Stop it. That's stupid.
It's so ridiculous. He's like, we're going to host in our church Hillsong United. And then 2 weeks later, Joyce Meyer is coming and preaching at our church. And I'm going to get to see her. I got to sit 5 rows back for both of them. Like, the worship for Hillsong United. So, like, it encapsulated the voices that I was exposing myself to the most those 3 years those 2 years that I first accepted Jesus. I was listening to Joyce Meyer and reading her Bible every single day, and I was listening. I got hooked on Hillsong and just started cranking Hillsong United, and for him to bring them in front of me. Like, it was, and that was the first, like, worship in church is awesome. But to be at the concert with Hillsong 10 feet away from me, singing in my face. Like, it was the closest thing to heaven at that point that I believe I had ever experienced. Like, I literally, when I closed my eyes and was worshiping so hard, my voice sucks too. I feel bad about people who stand around me, but I sing. And but Jesus hears it. I think he hears the good voice. I think it filters.
Our voices are different in heaven.
They are. By the time it makes
like
its
our
way
bodies
to him,
will be perfect,
yeah,
our voices will be perfect.
So he doesn't hate my singing. But I mean, I was singing my face off, and I had my eyes closed, and I literally again, and I'm just as I'm sorry, as I'm thinking about this, I'm putting this connection together that I never put together before. So when I
just now,
just now,
it's amazing what the Holy Spirit does.
I'm like, I literally, silly how I never put that together before. I literally felt like it was specifically the song Hosanna, and it was being sung by the woman that sang it originally, and I literally had my eyes closed, both my hands up in the air, and I literally felt like I was floating. Thinking back to when I accepted Christ at St. Bonaventure Church, and I had that feeling of floating the rest of the summer. Right? So that's the Holy Spirit. And that is as deep as I'm telling you, that was the closest to heaven I've ever felt in that moment with that worship. It's not just words. I mean, the Bible is very clear that life and death is in the tongue. The Bible is very clear that how a man speaketh, that's how it's going to turn out. That's what he becomes. The Jesus was very clear specifically about how our words will dictate things. He is the Word, right? So the flesh became word. The words that come out of our mouths about ourselves are of paramount importance, and in a world that God created where there are rules and laws that are unseen, right? Gravity exists. I can't show you, or I can't tell you how it works. I just know it exists. When I drop something and it falls, the words that we speak on ourselves open or close doors in spiritual places. The way we speak about ourselves, I think, our very molecules, our very body has life in it, and it reacts to the word however we're talking. And so we have to guard our tongue, we have to guard our mouth, and speak intentionally in ways that are progressing us the way that God wants us to progress us and protect, right? And I do this with my kids. I tell my kids, and this is the same with words though too, is why I'm going to say it, is you do not plant apple seeds and get an orange tree. You reap what you sow. It is an unseen law that God created that I have seen play out in my life. When someone gossips a certain way, or when someone lies on someone a certain way, or acts like they're doing this because they need to pray for you, but really they just want to talk about you. They're doing it with the wrong heart, and this whatever seed that heart condition is planting, you will get it back. I have had people speak on me to hurt my reputation about when my wife was dying from cancer. You cannot plant that seed without getting that tree. And I pray to God, please do not take people from that person or that person from that tree, because it's an impossibility for it not to come out the other side. I tell my kids, when you tell a lie, it will come out on the other side. It will be shine. The light will shine. It'll all be brought. All the darkness will be brought to the light. It will come out. You can hide it for a long time, but it is natural. It is God's law that it will be exposed over time, and He will make it better. He will be the vindicator, the attorney, the judge. He will be the finisher, and it will be made right, which is horrible, a horrible struggle for me. In the position, the way that God naturally wired me, my biggest struggle is retaliatory submission. There are some people that will make threats towards other people, and they'll just be threats. Because of the position that God has entrusted me in our community, and because it's not something that I take lightly whatsoever, because of not only the position, we're blessed financially because of how we steward things and what we do and the hard work that we put in, the financial, the social, the educational, all these different places of that God has placed me and my family, added to an unbridled, sinful, vengeful, rage-filled man who by nature is methodical and manipulative. By nature I am. I could do a lot of damage if someone hurts me. In reality, to their reputation. I mean, we're putting billboards up, honey. Like, I'll pay for it. Put them up. Right? And it's not going to be lying. I'm going to be putting truthful stuff up that I know or have proof of. And we're putting them on billboards, yard signs. I'm building websites. I will humiliate you for doing this to my family. But I have my wife, who, and my mother, and a couple other people in my life that are not seasonal, that are there to keep me from being the worst version of myself. And for refocusing back on Jesus. And in this sweet little voice, Hope goes, honey, what part of that are you trusting God? Oh, what a punch to the face. Because she's absolutely right. None of it, Hope. None of it. None of that is God. None of that is all me.
She already knows before she asks the question.
It's rhetorical.
Like,
I know.
Why are you asking?
I know. But it's 1,000,000%. And so pay attention to the people that God puts in your life to be the guardrails, because He uses those people, especially if you have a lot of similar traits naturally to me. Just depend and lean on those people and be thankful for those people for keeping me out of jail, probably, and out of trouble, and because here's the thing, even if real quick, with little kids, right? I got 3 little kids and 3 big kids. If you have kids, all parents, I think, have experienced this once or twice. Your kid's walking up the steps in front of you. You're walking behind them. Without warning, signal, reason, the child does an about face and is staring at you. And you have a moment to react as that child leaps into the air towards you for you to catch him or her.
Let me guess who that was.
Well, it was all of them. They all do it. They still do it. My big ones do it, which I'm like, you guys need to settle that. But when that child, now here's the point though. This is crazy, right? When I had kids and started thinking about this stuff, like, this is crazy. If you don't, if you've grown up without a dad, or if you've grown up with a dad who is supposed to protect you, but instead he hurts you, And you're in a position where it is inconceivable, it is nauseating and inconceivable for you to even entertain the notion that a man or a God exists that could possibly love you in the condition he left you. You hear me? You can relate to this.